Hello all, this is a kind of overview of the group lesson plan number one. I'm anticipating you needing a little bit more guidance in this first time around. And then as we progress, I'm assuming that you'll get the general idea because we will be repeating this group lesson plan creation a few times in this course. So you have a folder shared with your group for SPED 8532. I'm showing you on the screen the folder for group one. And this is the group lesson plans folder. Now remember, this is shared with you via your Georgia Southern Gmail account. So you have to be logged in. If you look in the upper right corner, you have to be logged in to that in your Google to your Georgia Southern account in order to get into this or even see this. You were given the links to this earlier on in the semester, but if you can't find that, whatever, a good way to look for that is in the shared with me section. You should then be able to find a folder either labeled group lesson plans or like SPED 8532 group, and then whatever number your group is. Anywho, so you would go into the group lesson plan page, and in it you'll see that there is a Google Doc that says Group 1 Lesson Plan 1 Academic Skill. That's the lesson plan template that you will use to complete this lesson plan. And this is a collaborative project. You should all be working together on this, including you should all be doing some of the text of the lesson plan and not just making comments. And below that, you'll see three different case studies. We have a middle school self-contained, high school self-contained, and elementary school self-contained, although this elementary school self-contained case study is for a student with mild autism. So they are working on general education level materials and skills. So as a group, you would decide which of these case studies you want to use for this lesson plan. You guys can choose, pick one of those and use them for a lesson plan one here. I would, ideally you would meet and discuss this. It's probably going to be easier than to make a series of comments. But if you want to, you can start your comment discussion maybe on this lesson plan page. So let's say you're still in the beginning stages. You've looked through the case studies. You're kind of like, I vote for the middle school one. You can put that comment in here in your lesson plan template, or you can determine as a group, whatever contact method you all talked about, make sure you talk to each other, whether it's a text chain or a group me or whatever. Get in touch with each other, make an agreement on your plan, either to meet virtually and discuss everything and decide what you're going to do, or how you're going to go about collaborating on this project. You all need to determine that pretty early on. Like, don't wait till Friday of the week this module is due for you to start looking at this. You need to be working together early enough that everybody has a chance to know what their role is early enough in the week so you can schedule out when you're going to actually work on this assignment. All right, enough of that. So this is a very basic template, lesson plan template I want you to use for this class. And I know we are all at a point where I don't need scripted lessons from you anymore. That's not where we are. But I do want you to think through each section of this. And I want you to use one of the 4 instructional formats talked about in our text in chapter 5. The minor exception for this one is because we're working on an academic skill. Milieu teaching is probably not going to be your focus this time. That would be a great one for the communication-based lesson plan. However, if you come up with a really good reasoning for using milieu teaching for this academic skill focus, then by all means, just make sure you sort of justify that. All right, so you're going to either use little case direct instruction, big case direct instruction, or discrete trial training to design this lesson. Give me the basic information, lesson, grade, and subject. If you give me the grade and subject, I'll know which case study you're using, obviously. The time frame for the lesson, Class and group type. So how do you imagine this lesson taking place? Is it in a gen ed environment, co-teaching or otherwise? Is it in a self-contained environment? Are you planning for small group, whole group, individual instruction? What are you planning to do here? Just let me know. You're also going to tell me which form of lesson plan you are going to use or general teaching strategy you're going to use. Then you're going to give me an outline of your lesson. It should be based on the way the text describes you should have a lesson like this. Now remember, capitalized DI is curriculum, scripted curriculum that's already developed. So if you have that for this particular, if you decide as a group that that's what you're going to do, obviously someone's going to need access to that curriculum to get the lesson outline for me. I don't need, you know, like I said, this is not a scripted lesson, but you're going to give me an outline of the steps that that you will follow with enough detail that I understand what's happening in this lesson. You should include your shaping or chaining plan with prompting, procedures, and reinforcement in order to learn the skill. If this is completely irrelevant, then at least talk about prompting procedures you might use or reinforcers you might use, especially during independent work times. If you're using direct instruction, there would be guided practice and independent practice phases. What types of prompting procedures are you going to use there? Reinforcement systems, that kind of thing. Then finally, give me a sample of whatever type of data collection assessment tool you would use to evaluate the student on their success in this lesson. And it could be continued progress monitoring for this academic skill. You know, that's obviously depends on what the group decides to focus on. So each case study has some IEP goals attached to it. You could go about this several ways. You could use the IEP goal as your main objective for this lesson. However, if you're looking at more of a whole class kind of situation, you would want to tie that goal to a specific grade level standard that you would be teaching to the whole class, right? So that you have a lot of options here. I wanted to give you choices to think about and talk through as a group. If it's easiest for you, just use a relevant IEP goal, an academic IEP goal as your focus here. Actually forgot to include that in this, but in your lesson outline, you know, describe what that, in fact, I'm going to add that to the template. Let's add lesson objective. You get to see it in action. And list that what that goal is. Remember, we want some idea of what equals mastery for this lesson session. All right. Hopefully that helps you all. You should be commenting consistently throughout. You should be adding text. Remember, I can see everybody's activity in Google. I can see who commented when. I can see who actually edited materials or added information to the template as opposed to just commenting. So make sure you're engaged in all components of this. If it's helpful for you all, some groups might decide, you know, one person's going to use green ink to type in information. The other person will use blue, and that way different people's contributions show up, or, you know, that's when you see some of the changes that occurred. You know, you decide as a group how you want to do that. Those are just some suggestions for me. All right, I hope this helps you all. I will actually look at this actual Google Doc when it's time for me to grade. So you don't have to upload anything into Folio. I'm going to go into this Google Doc and review, because I'm going to be looking at comments. I'm going to be looking at, you know, the collaboration that occurred there. If you do decide to meet virtually for this project, rather than do, you know, solely comments-based discussion, just make sure that you record your session and provide me with a link. That way I know I can look at that and see that people were all engaged across the group and so on. All right, I hope this is helpful for everyone, and let me know if you have questions.